What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. Hope you're all having a good Thursday. I'm a little frustrated from my Wednesday. Jimmy Butler injury cost me a $1,500 cash at least in the big one yesterday. Did not do well other than that. I couldn't get the exact parts of the Denver thing, and as I suspected on our show, guys like Zeke and Nnaji, they did play a bunch of guys like 20, 10, 12 minutes, and it really kind of killed a lot of the action for the other guys. So that was unfortunate for some of my lineups. Sheets, how did you do? And then we'll jump on into today.
Yeah, so that was a good call, by the way, for you on Barton. I mean, he really just was shooting. He was trying to take over that game pretty much. And you were right. Those other guys were pretty. I mean, they were pretty pedestrian. They were fine, but they were definitely very pedestrian. I don't know exactly what it took to win the tournaments because I wasn't really in contention, so I really didn't check. But I had, I min cash in the bigger one on FanDuel that I played. I got that one. I based on one of the sims, I'm like, what if Comiskey has a good game? You know what I mean? So I got him in there, so that helped. But overall, just didn't quite get it done. Billion game slate for me is kind of rough. So it just didn't work. We're on to the next one.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, like, there was a big thing that I adjusted to about 10% of it, and not enough, but of having Fox once they announced Halliburton was out. We didn't have enough time to, of course, adjust everything because there were some of the guys we had already used. But it goes along with the point I'm making that the better you are delaying, because the amount better that Fox becomes of a play with Halliburton out is just immense. And these late news information, people don't tend to react to them. And you had Fox at 4% on a slate that, had he been playing all day, he probably would have been playing that at that price at all day. He would probably have been like 25% with Halliburton and Terrence Davis out, really giving him just the entire keys to the castle. So anyway, just important to keep that in mind for late swap. And then, as we suspected, sort of the green, I got bit by it too. The green thing felt suspect, and I still was doing it, but it was like I was way off of Jeff more at the end, much more on JaMychal. Didn't really matter. Neither was the one that you needed. You didn't want either of them. You could have won with probably one of them if you got everything else right, but I don't think. I'm trying to look at the big buy-in tournament. The things that won were like things like, that was the other one, Brandon Ingram being out. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 61 points last night.
That was the one.
And that was a big deal. Davion Mitchell was 3% owned, only put up like, a little over 5x, but that's better than all the other guys did. Jaren Jackson Jr., who looked like he was going to be chalky early in the day, was on the winning lineup, and he was only 9% owned. Anyway, so we move on, we live, we learn.
Let me throw a couple of announcements out there. First of all, as far as me personally, I'm going away tomorrow for the weekend. As usual, I'll give the same announcement. Listen, I'm probably not going to be able to put any sheets up for the weekend, and then I'll end up doing it anyway. I'll do the best I can, but that's where I'm going to be this weekend. I won't be, on the videos tomorrow or whatever it is. The other thing is that we're continuing to work on this optimizer thing, and we have my brother-in-law who's really just desiring to just go forward. So we're going to let him, and we'll see what kind of progress we can make on it. We have a lot of great ideas for it, so that's in the works. For those of you that aren't been following this, so we have this guy DFS Jan who we took on like several months ago, who does kind of the fringe sports. He does soccer. He does LOL as well. This guy's really, really smart. I mean, he if you look at it, and not that you guys have to play this, but he did like this video on an LOL slate yesterday, where he spent basically an hour analyzing every reserve player from every freaking team in there. I mean, the amount of knowledge he has is it's amazing. So if you are interested in playing those type of sports, I mean, I have to say that he's the best out there with those types of things. So we got him out there. I also want to tout our Discord a little bit. Rhodey has been just all over the Discord, helping people out. Bobby, you're always there, but Rhodey spending a lot of time helping people out with questions, things like that. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this with you, Bobby, is to help build a kind of a community of learning, and whenever I see that going, I don't even chime in. I just kind of let it happen. You know what I mean? And that makes me really, really happy. So I encourage everybody to get in that Discord, as long as the atmosphere remains civil, which it is. It's a really, really great thing to do.
Totally agree. Did you mention about the optimizer? Sorry, I got distracted.
I did.
Discord. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's get to today's slate then. Sheets, why don't we pull up your screen?
Yeah, let me pull up my screen.
Go game by game.
And let's see if this is going to be an easy one or a hard one, or we don't know yet. So first of all, I think Butler's out for like a week.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute, I guess. So again, these are early looks, but for me, Toronto, Philly, they priced up. Well, they didn't price him up. They increased Fred VanVleet's price a little bit to 8,400, but he still looks like a pretty good play. Barnes and a newbie. I have Trent and Ochoa actually. So I mean, for me, it's going to be it's going to be the Miami guys and it's going to be Toronto guys. That's my first thing. The other thing I would mention is that they did move up Andre Drummond to 8,600, and he's still going to rate to be a really strong play, and he's still going to rate to be 40% owned. So that's just what that is. This is really what his price should be starting at somewhere between 8,600 and 9,200. That's really where it should be. Anyway, I do like Precious. I like Boucher even. He's 3,200. Trent. Remember, it's a 3-game slate. You could dumpster dive and you could screw around a little bit. Scottie Barnes, even Svi. I mean, all these Toronto guys I think are good plays. And Philly, I guess just Drummond. I don't know. What do you got?
No, yeah, I don't even know that. I don't know if I'll be particularly interested in Drummond.
Okay.
I know he's had 2 big games in a row. I just think if everybody's going to keep playing him, I can find enough of an excuse to try to fade him against a team that doesn't really play with the big. Maybe I'm just trying to figure out who else is going to get those minutes. That's where I'm struggling. So maybe, I don't know. Well, I'll get back to on the Drummond thing, but on Toronto's side, I don't have his. I mean, yeah, Boucher is a long shot tournament play. Let's put it where it is. Precious and Trent and Scottie Barnes and VanVleet are all going to be extremely popular, and Anunoby. I'm siding with Anunoby above all of them. I think that obviously Siakam not going to play the back-to-back. That's the reason why we're getting all these Toronto guys showing up. Trent, OG, and Precious are the main focuses for me. And on the Philly side, I'm debating what to do. We need to know we don't know if Tobias Harris or Seth Curry is going to play. If Tobias Harris plays, I have no interest in Andre Drummond. If Seth Curry plays, I have less interest in Andre Drummond. If they don't play both those guys, I go right back to for Korkmaz and Milton. And potentially, some of the Niang and Reed. I think Niang is the only one who's still, well, no, he probably he couldn't get enough minutes with all those guys playing. If they play, they're very, very uninteresting to me as a team. Korkmaz is the only one who maybe I could still give some looks to. But I don't know. It's really hard to do in the morning without knowing whether or not Harris or Curry are in fact going to play. And, even if anytime people have been ruled out it's just a health protocol thing with Harris. So if he comes back, he actually would be in play.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be over, so he should play today. Seth Curry, I don't know for sure. I just feel like it could go either way with him. We've seen him sometimes linger on the injured list, so we don't need to speculate. We'll know before lock. But yeah, in the game, it's OG, Trent, Precious, and then debating about Drummond and Korkmaz. I don't want to play Drummond, but at chalk. But I do think that there aren't a whole lot of plays on the slate, and they don't really have another big. Not that they need to go big. I did want to throw back to one of the things with Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes feels more like a cashy play, a cashy tournament ownership with at this price, mostly cash game upside. You know what I mean? It just feels like cashy to not. You know what I mean? He's not. When is he gonna put up 45, 50 fantasy points? I guess 40 you'd be happy enough, and he can do that anytime he steps on the court through a various number of ways. I would love this guy in general, but he is 6.6K, and it's just a little bit. Do I want to just take that and move up to OG, who gets a little bit more of it? I mean, both those guys are interesting. Anyway, I'll put Scottie Barnes as my fourth guy on the Raptors, because that is the only other thing. The Raptors are going to be like the ultra chalk. And again, it's only 2 games later, so hopefully we'll know everything. But it's just been every single night where there's been a very, very substantial announcement well after lock. And let's just keep an eye out for it. So the less you can play of it, the better. But you're going to have to play a couple Toronto guys, at least in my opinion. All right, you ready? You want to talk about Indiana, Utah?
Yeah, I mean, again, as we kind of alluding to with the Miami value and the Toronto value, this game is going to be, the least interesting, I suppose, from the numbers. But let me just let's take a look at what I got. I got Torrey Craig at 3,100. It's always not somebody that that you want to play. And boy, oh boy, I'm trying my best to find anything. Gobert 8K. Well, the thing about Gobert tonight is you have Drummond and Bam both just kind of, Bam is going to be a super smash play, and Drummond is going to look like a good play too. And if you do like playing Rudy Gobert, you're gonna. I mean, I'm showing me a 40% ownership. I don't know how that's possible with all the money that's going to go to Bam and Drummond. I guess it's only 3 games slate. I guess
I don't know if Bam will necessarily play, but maybe.
Well, I mean, that's something else then.
He probably will. He probably will, but he was legit questionable yesterday, and it's a back-to-back. So, but you don't have Butler anymore. So anyway, well, it's up.
Yeah. So aside from that, I mean, it's Bojan Bogdanovic. I don't know. It's kind of lazy to say I don't have any interest in this game. It's only a 3-game slate. You got to probably try to pick something out of here. But for me, nothing's really standing out.
Yeah. So I think that the Bogdanovic and Gobert are the chalky ones from the.
See, even when I try to come up with something different, it's the chalky ones, right?
Yeah. I personally like Gobert in this matchup.
Okay.
And Bogdanovic is anytime he's chalky, you don't really want to play him because first of all, he rarely gets there. Second of all,
right.
It's just a 3-point shooting thing, but it is a small slate. It is a bad defense. I think Royce O'Neal is probably the guy who's most interesting to me on this side. Just because of the price and that he's going to be a little bit lower owned than the other guys, and he's really consistent. So I'll say Royce O'Neal would be probably my favorite behind Gobert, maybe along with Gobert, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Clarkson's really cheap, but we know. I mean, it's just you're playing. It's tough to get too many minutes when you've got Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell in the backcourt. But this is the kind of thing where I could see I could see maybe Conley. I don't know. They did have a day off. For a second, I thought they were playing back to back. I'm just trying to find something here. I can't find anything way off the board on the Utah side. On the Indy side, I like Karis LeVert, assuming that he plays, and I think he will. I think he was sitting out the front end of the back to back. But if he doesn't play, Torrey Craig will show up as value. I'll take a shot there. I mean, look, we saw the Torrey Craig 10 fantasy point game. There's certainly that in his bag. It's a 5-point game, a 10-point game. We don't have a whole lot on this small slate of guys who might play minutes. And without LeVert, he would play minutes. Brogdon's priced up. Sabonis is probably the best play. His price, they keep jumping it around. It was at 10-2 yesterday, and now he's 91 or 91. Yeah, it was yesterday. I think they're going to get housed in this game, to be honest.
Yeah,
I really think Utah's going to beat the hell out of them. But in case they don't, Sabonis would probably be my favorite Blazer. And I think Duarte I would still take shots on even with LeVert back, just because he's got a reasonable price tag and could get there. It's really not all that exciting, man, on this Indy side. I know we have to play some people, but maybe one thing you could do that's different is that, I always say that the time to play Miles Turner is when like nothing else makes sense and he's not going to be owned. This might be that time, like that's the only thing I can come up with that's like different on this slate. Don't you think that makes a little bit of sense too? Because Gobert does actually, it makes a little bit more sense than I first. Gobert doesn't like, that's one thing. He doesn't like to come out on the 3-point shooters that he's guarding, like the big men. So if that could be an actual issue. And he's more switchable and all this than he used to be, but it did burn him in the playoffs a little bit when they put all the littles out there. But the same thing has affected him in the past with bigs, with big shooting threes. So maybe you could argue that Turner could stretch Gobert a little bit away from the basket. I'm just trying to find something to be different. It's not a play that I love or anything. I'm just want to get a little bit different on this slate. I do think Turner, when everything else doesn't really make sense and then you can't really find a way to be different, that's the time to play Miles Turner. Just simple as that, especially against a guy who doesn't want to go out on another big. So I don't mind that idea.
All right. So if you want to play like, if you want to like a real, like this is Sheets playing DFS like in old Sheets format. So Indiana just went to Denver last night. Okay. And they're on a back-to-back going from Denver to Utah. They played against Denver with no players. Denver literally had nobody, okay? They had no Porter, they had no Jokic, and Indiana lost to Denver. And now they're going into Utah back-to-back. You'd have to think they were going to get smoked. So I'm going to say that Indiana is going to play better and keep it more competitive. So why don't we just go ahead and play this game to be close and stack this game, all right, as a result. And play Brogdon and play Sabonis, and you tell me LeVert's playing? I don't know. And then play actually the Utah guys that can score, play Mitchell, and then just play this game to stay close. 3-game slate, literally the only time I would come up with any of that logic. But
even if you do, it's not like, what are you going to do to get different ownership? Even if you play it to be close, it doesn't really matter. You have to play the low-owned ones will be Brogdon and Turner.
Yeah.
So that's what you could do, but like, okay. It doesn't really matter whether you play it to play close or not. Like it's not like these guys are like, it's not like LeVert's not going to be owned. It's not like Sabonis is completely unowned. So that's
what about the Utah? What about the Utah side? What about like Mitchell?
Yeah, you can play Mitchell for sure. Okay. It's a good matchup. I mean, but everybody's healthy. There's no, it doesn't say that Mitchell's not off the board though. He's going to be high owned. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind that angle though. I think you need to include one of the Brogdon or Turner if you want to get super different in order to make it work. Because right now, all these other guys are going to show up as reasonable enough plays, I guess.
All right. So what are you doing this Miami business? I mean, what I have right now is I'm presuming Bam in. I mean, Butler out, Bam in. And based on that, my rankings of the Miami guys are. Well, Bam is, I have, again, forgetting the back-to-back thing, even though you can't forget it, but just on numbers, he's just kind of a lock. And then there's Duncan Robinson is next for me at 3,800. You got Hero at 6,100, who I'm going to like. And those are the top, those are actually the top three for me would be Hero, Bam, Duncan Robinson, and then I guess maybe Lowry too, but he's another back-to-back guy I don't really feel like playing. Yeah, so I like those guys. And on the Clippers, I don't know, Bledsoe. I don't know, the usual guys to struggle over. I mean, Bledsoe 4,700. He looks to be the value over there for now. But nothing special. And you got Paul George at 10 too. I mean, you're going to need points. So I guess Paul George with Bam, that makes some sense, I suppose. I don't know. Can you get me on anything here?
The only thing I don't understand is why we haven't why we have kind of done it. Other shows haven't done it. Like Batum, just every single game gets there.
Okay.
Not only does he get there, I mean, he's not going to be low owned. Okay. But he's 5,400, he's 5,300. He probably should be 6K by now. I mean, these are the games he's had without Morris, 33, 34, 26.5, 34.5, 36. So he's averaging about 32 fantasy points a game, actually maybe a little higher at 5,300, basically with their current roster. Now I know Miami's a good defensive team, but like, give me a break. Like, why are we not why isn't he the first name we always mention? And then Terrence Mann, who should be the low owned play, I really like. He's the other one. And then you play you play Kennard. You play one or two of those guys, possibly, in my opinion. Because at every game, one of them is going to 6.5, 7x, something like that. It just feels like at these prices, it's just got to happen. It's not a great match. Something's throwing me off about this game is the spread. The Clippers are 4-point favorites, which is kind of shocking to me because I don't know, man. Like, does that feels like someone else is sitting out too? Like just Butler being out, I don't think makes the Clippers a favorite. I think it makes them even with Miami.
Okay.
So I'm sort of like
you're thinking Bam might be out
or Lowry,
right? Lowry would make sense too.
But the problem is they want to win games. They're out there to prove they're the best. They're probably pissed off about that loss last night to the Lakers. Yeah. By the way, congrats to my Lakers and everybody who wants to keep shitting on Russ and everything. there will be a time where you will regret that. And he, by the way, down the stretch of that game, I know he missed the buzzer beater in regulation, but down the stretch of that game, he absolutely was awesome. And the Lakers could very easily be 5-0 without LeBron right now. Instead, they're 3-2. But look, at some of that, a lot of that's their fault. But they did get those weird games against OKC that I just can't get over that they had the monster leads in. But anyway, yeah, it is weird on this side. Like, trying it to be different. I mean, maybe one thing you could do is take a shot with Caleb Martin or Gabe Vincent if there's no value that opens up, just to try to be different. But I don't love it. Like, I don't know what to really go for. I mean, PJ Tucker, who's like the most annoying guy to ever roster, he had 31 fantasy points last night.
Is he really?
Yeah, he had 13 rebounds.
What's his price? 4K?
He's 3,100.
Wow.
So like, yeah, it's gross, but like on a small slate, we're probably going to get other value. But that's another guy we should consider. I mean, just the rebounding. I mean, the rebounding alone, he was killing the Lakers on the offensive boards, like just absolutely a nightmare. And there's not like they have a great rebounder on the other side for the Clippers. By the way, I do want to say, after watching Bam guard Davis, if you watched the game last night, you'd be convinced that Bam is a better player than Anthony Davis. You would be 100% convinced, and you couldn't be talked out of it. It just, Davis looks like he literally can't do anything with Bam on him. Like, it's really incredible. I mean, I'm not saying Bam is, obviously Davis is a better player.
Is he an all-star Bam?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But so anyway, so to show something from this game, Bam, Hero, Batum being my preferred option, Man and Kennard at lower ownership, and maybe instead, Tucker, PJ Tucker, like even on small slates will get ignored. And that's when you want to play PJ Tucker, no ownership, small slate, going to play 30 minutes-ish, 30 plus minutes, and going to fight hard, going to give you a chance at a double-double every time he gets out there, and give you a chance at 5 fantasy points in 30 minutes, but you're going to get minutes out of him. So that'll sort of be the equaling factor. What's really weird is they last one I want to throw out here is that what I may end up doing, and even as horrible as the matchup is with Bam, because they need to play big, I would consider like one of Hartenstein or Zubac. The reason I don't say both is because there's potential foul trouble always with Zubac. And 5,100, he could end up playing 30 minutes, and it's projected to play about 25. And if he doesn't, Hartenstein should eat up most of the rest of those minutes. So those two guys are on my list, but I don't know what to do with them. I think Zubac would be the one I would lean more towards playing, even though it's a bad matchup. He is 5,100, and again, I believe has upside to get 30 plus fantasy points. And it's really hard to find things to get different on this slate early on. I think we'll have better ideas later as we get the lineups out.
Yeah, well, again, keep an eye on the spacing of the games, because I presume that most people are you're gonna want to play something from that Toronto Philly game. You don't know exactly what, but you're gonna probably want to play something. So depending on how that's going, you do have time to finagle around with what you got going in the later stuff. I would keep an eye on that, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm gonna probably have to play something from Toronto. Probably have to. I don't know if I have to play something from Philly, but probably have to play something from Toronto at least. Yeah. And then see what's going on. See what's going on after an hour or so.
Yeah, and again, we need to get confirmation on Seth Curry and Tobias Harris. Obviously, we know that makes a pretty huge difference. So, so it's a weird slate. I've got my priorities as being OG, Trent, Precious, Gobert, Royce O'Neal, Bam, Hero, Batum, Man, or Kennard, Tucker as being the wild card one, and then maybe Sabonis or Turner as ways to get a little bit different. It's a rough one on a back-to-back going into Utah, but there is like she said, if that game, they can sort of rally together, and they do get LeVert coming back probably, so that's going to give them a little burst of energy. Maybe LeVert, I think LeVert I should put as a priority too, if I didn't already. If he plays, that's the way they keep that game close, I think. Again, I'll just repeat it again. He's the highest usage player in the NBA when he plays, and which is partly why you see Brogdon put up a big game last night without him. I really wish I would have made that Brogdon switch. I did it. I had 50% Brogdon and about 30% Levine, but I left Levine in my big buy-in line, which was a mistake. Well, not a mistake, just something would have been probably smarter to go with Brogdon. But yeah, it's an interesting little 3-gamer. We're probably going to get news later because the back-to-backs for a number of these teams, but it is hard to get different at first glance. So we're just gonna have to find better ways to do it. And we did mention the ways that we thought we could do it. So that's all I'd say.
All right. Good luck, everybody. We'll be there at 6. Probably just maybe like for half an hour or so. And then yeah, we're gonna come back with the showdown slate.
Yep, sounds good. All right, guys. Good luck, everybody.
Okay.